Atlanta's nightlife is always full of wild moments, and last night was no different. One of the city's top clubs turned into a scene of rising tension when Kirk Frost and young Jock got into it with Lil Scrappy. What started as a normal night out quickly turned into something more serious. The place was packed. The bass from the music shook the floors, and flashing lights lit up the crowd. The air smelled like perfume, cologne, and smoke. People were dancing, laughing, and dressed to impress. It was the kind of night Atlanta is known for. Kirk and Jock showed up looking sharp, wearing expensive clothes and eye-catching jewelry. They had the confidence of men who were used to being recognized, but something about them seemed off. Kirk's smile looked fake, and Jock's laugh didn't sound real. They sat in the VIP section with a group of friends, but they were clearly distracted. Their eyes kept moving across the room. In another VIP section, Lil Scrappy was having a great time. His energy was positive, and the people around him were enjoying his vibe. He danced, joked, and welcomed everyone who came by to say hi. He didn't show it. He kept moving through the crowd, smiling and toasting with fans like nothing was wrong. But Kirk and Jock's eyes never left him. Jock leaned over to Kirk and said something quietly, just loud enough for him to hear. Kirk gave a small nod, but didn't stop watching Scrappy. These three have a long history. They've been in the same social circles for years, and most people assumed they were cool with each other. But clearly, something had been building up behind the scenes. Scrappy has been getting more attention lately. People like that. He's honest and speaks his mind. That kind of attitude made him popular, but not everyone liked it. Kirk and Jock might see him as a threat. Maybe it's because he's more outspoken now, or maybe they feel like he's stepping into their territory. Either way, whatever they were feeling came out last night. As the DJ dropped a new song and the crowd went wild, Kirk and Jock stood up and started walking toward Scrappy. People around them noticed the shift right away. Dancers moved aside, making space without being told. Scrappy was still laughing and dancing when he noticed them coming his way, but by then, it was too late to walk off. The noise seemed to fade as all eyes turned to them. Kirk stopped a short distance from Scrappy, keeping his hands in his pockets. Jock came a little closer. Scrappy, trying to keep it casual, asked what was going on. But underneath the smile, he was watching them closely. His crew sensed something too and stood up, ready for whatever might happen. Kirk didn't respond right away. He looked Scrappy up and down, then said Scrappy had been talking too much and causing issues. Scrappy stayed calm, but his grip on his glass tightened. He gave a quick glance to his crew, then looked back at Kirk and Jock. If they had a problem, he wanted them to come out with it. JOC stepped in again. His body looked calm, but his face showed he was serious. He told Scrappy they weren't playing and he needed to listen. Scrappy didn't move back. He asked what Jock was trying to say. Moving even closer, their faces just inches apart. People nearby felt the pressure in the air. Some backed away while others stood still, not wanting to miss what might happen. Even though the music kept going, the vibe around them was totally different now. Scrappy's group stayed alert, ready in case things took a turn. Everyone around them could feel how serious things were getting. "You've been spreading lies. Did you really think you could say all that and not deal with the fallout?" Scrappy held his head high and shot back. "If I've got something to say, I'll say it to your face. Don't come at me unless you've got something real to show." Kirk stepped in even closer, his expression cold and unreadable. "We're not just talking anymore, Scrappy. We've got proof." He quickly pulled out his phone, unlocked it, and held the screen up in front of Scrappy. Whatever was shown clearly made an impact. Scrappy's jaw tensed as he stared at the screen. "So this is it? Some texts that only tell half the story," he said, trying to sound unbothered, but his voice shook just enough to show he was rattled. Jock came up beside Kirk. He stood straight, his body calm, but the intensity in his eyes made it clear he meant business. "This isn't taken out of context. You've been fake. You talk one way to us and say something completely different when we're not around. It's time to stop pretending before this gets worse." That's when Scrappy lost his patience. He squared up, shoulders tight, and looked both of them dead in the eye. "You think you can just roll up on me like this? Who do you think you're messing with?" His voice was loud and firm. Kirk leaned in, speaking just loud enough for Scrappy to hear over the music. "Keep acting tough and you'll find out real fast." Scrappy didn't back down. His heart was racing, but his words stayed strong. "You don't scare me, never have." For a split second, it looked like everything was about to explode. Jock's fists were clenched. Kirk's glare didn't move, and Scrappy's crew started inching forward, ready if things went south. Around them, the noise of the club faded. People had stopped dancing. All eyes were locked on what looked like a fight waiting to happen. A security guard pushed his way between them just in time. "That's enough," he said, placing a firm hand on Kirk's shoulder and nudging him back. Either take this outside or end it now. Kirk didn't fight it. He kept his eyes on Scrappy but let the guard move him back. Jock took a step back too, still watching carefully. Scrappy let out a slow breath, his body still tense. The guard turned to all three and made it clear. I don't care who you are. This isn't the place for this. Kirk didn't argue. After a long pause, he nodded and slipped his phone back into his pocket. We'll talk another time, he said quietly. Then he and Jock turned and made their way back to their VIP area. Scrappy stood still for a moment. He was breathing hard, and his crew circled around him. You all right? One of them asked. They always talk big, that's all it is. But inside, he wasn't so sure. The way Kirk and Jock came at him felt like more than just a heated moment. It felt like something bigger was about to start. For the rest of the night, the air in the club stayed heavy. The party didn't feel the same anymore. Kirk and Jock weren't partying, they sat quietly, barely touching their drinks. Their eyes kept drifting over to Scrappy. It wasn't about fun anymore. They were watching, thinking, planning. Scrappy tried to shake it off, but his friends could tell he was still tense. He wasn't afraid, just uneasy. Like he knew this wasn't the end of it. Word spread fast. People were already talking about the face-off. Some exaggerated what happened. One guy claimed fists were about to fly. Another said Scrappy held his ground like a boss. Then, a blurry video started making the rounds online. It didn't show much. Just the moment Kirk and Jock approached Scrappy. But it was enough to get the internet buzzing. When Kirk saw the posts and comments, his mood darkened. Now they're making it sound like we're the ones who started this, he muttered to Jock. Jock shook his head. Let them talk. Maybe it's time we say our part. Kirk looked at him and nodded. Yeah, we can't let this slide. Across the club, Scrappy's team was showing him the same videos and messages. They're calling you a legend tonight, one of them said, laughing. The king of the club. Scrappy gave a half smile but didn't look too happy. It's not. This is just the beginning. As the night wound down, Kirk and Jock stood and headed for the exit. They hadn't said much since things cooled off. They didn't have to. The tension between them and Scrappy was still hanging in the air. Kirk gave a short nod and they walked toward the door. Scrappy stood quietly, watching them leave. His jaw was tight. They really think this is done. They're coming again. I can feel it. Outside, the cool air didn't do much to settle things. Kirk and Jock walked past the crowd, not saying a word. They got into their car and drove off. Inside, the glow from their phone screens lit their faces as they scrolled through the reactions. Comment after comment, everyone had an opinion. Some were cheering Scrappy, others backing Kirk and Jock. The whole thing had blown up online after a while. Kirk looked over at Jock. You know what we have to do, right? Jock nodded without saying anything. They both understood. The night's fight might have been stopped, but it wasn't finished. It was only the beginning of something much bigger. If you want the full story when it drops, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We've got more coming your way soon.